We'll start here. Yeah. Hello and welcome to NewsClick. Today we're joined by Vijoo Krishnan of the All India Kisan Sabha, and we're going to be talking about the two bills that were rammed down the Rajya Sabha yesterday. There's no other way to describe it. These are, of course, the Farmers Produce Trade and Commerce Promotion and Facilitation Bill, and the Farmers Empowerment Protection Agreement on Price Assurance and Farm Services Bill. Now, we have talked to Vijoo on these bills before. There's been a lot of protests in the preceding months, and there are a lot of protests going on right now. But first of all, Vijoo, could you start by telling us about how these bills were passed yesterday, the whole process itself, because we do know that there was a lot of opposition inside the House as well, but the government pushed through nonetheless.
What we witnessed yesterday in Parliament is the darkest, it's the most shameful incident with the Deputy Chairman disallowing the rights of the members of Parliament. There were statutory resolutions put by different members of Parliament. They had asked for sending these bills to select committees. These should have been voted upon. There should have been discussion and voting on that. Nothing of that sort was allowed, and just without on voice vote. We already saw in the beginning itself how question hour was done away with, and citing the lockdown, the time has been curtailed. And yesterday we found that the bills also, it was not just passed in the proper democratic manner. It is throttling of democracy that was there, and coming as it came from the Deputy Chairman himself. And today we find that the different members of Parliament from the opposition parties, they have been suspended. If the Modi government feels that the protests against these anti-farmer bills can be suppressed in this manner, they are mistaken. Even as we are talking now, thousands of farmers are in protest in Bangalore. Farmers, agriculture workers, Dalits, from different organizations uniting against this bill. It is not just in Punjab or Haryana as some sections of the media try to put. We have been continuously having protests, and this shameful incident in the Parliament yesterday, which they are now trying to cover up by acting against the leaders of the opposition. I think their undemocratic, authoritarian face is exposed in front of the people of our country.
Absolutely. And it's interesting you mentioned the media, because a lot of discussion, let's take the bills one by one. The first one, of course, is the Trade and Commerce Facilitation Bill. And now a lot of discussion around this bill seems to have centered around the idea that this is actually going to free the farmers, it's going to give them more choices, and this is the end of a oppressive system of APMCs, or Agriculture Produce Marketing Committees. It is the end of the age of middlemen, and arguments like that, which the media has very uncritically been repeating. So could you take us through actually what are the key objections that are being raised by farmers and farmers organizations about the bill?
Actually, when the ordinances were brought, the agriculture minister made this ridiculous claim that farmers did not get freedom on 15th August 1947. And it is Narendra Modi who on 3rd June 2020 has granted the freedom to farmers to sell anywhere they want. Firstly, it is a blatant lie that farmers didn't have the freedom to sell anywhere else. There was no compulsion that they sell only in the APMC. But why were the APMCs brought in, firstly instituted? It was to ensure that the traders who are exploiting the farmers, that could be stopped, the big traders. And there could be regulated markets in which there would be a fair playing ground, and farmers' interests would also be protected. That is what they are doing away with. And they are citing many things like middlemen and the farmers not benefiting from it and so on. It is literally throwing the baby with the bathwater. These are things which can be resolved by internal reforms. What is required is expansion of the marketing infrastructure across the country. The central government should spend for that. Instead of that, what it's doing is it is saying that Adanis and Ambanis and other big corporate companies, also maybe Walmarts and others, will come and buy from you directly and give you a better price. Those big names which each of these bills have, I think it has to be simplified for people. One is very clearly Mandi Todo Sarkari Khareed, MSP per Sarkari Khareed Band Karo. That is total deregulation of market and in a gradual manner phasing out the MSP procurement which is there. Second is the Hoarding and Black Marketing Promotion Act. That is the changes in the Essential Commodities Act. Very clearly, we say Jamakhori and Kala Bazari Badao Kanun. And the third one is the Corporate Contract Farming Act. These are the three things, to put it simply. And the protest against this is also arising precisely for this reason, that the government is going ahead with the WTO recommendations. They have the dictates of the WTO repeatedly has been to cut farm subsidies, cut subsidies for our public distribution system, food security programs, and to withdraw from public stock holding. This is exactly what the Shanta Kumar Commission recommended. The senior BJP leader recommended this, and also states which are giving a bonus above the MSP. Very clearly, the Shanta Kumar Commission said that from such states there should be no procurement. You're going in that direction. Gradual withdrawal of the central government from all its responsibilities to ensure MSP. And this is from a government which in 2014 came to power by promising farmers the Swaminathan Commission recommendation would be implemented, that C2 plus 50, at least 1.5 times the total cost of production would be ensured. So that is what is happening. Now they are saying, we are not in a position to do it. Don't worry, Adani and Ambani will do it for you. So what we might very well know that's not going to happen.
Absolutely. So what we might be seeing is actually, say, outside the, what do you call it, the APMC system, outside the MSP system, corporates may come strike deals with farmers. Maybe initially even offer a good price for 1 or 2 years, and then as they become the default buyers from farmers, then what has happened with so many gig economies, for instance, in India, that initially you create a system, and then after that your farmers are at your mercy.
Absolutely, you have correctly placed the point that initially there is a possibility that some of the traders would pay better. Later, we have found wherever the earlier systems of contract farming, the most acclaimed contract farming model was the Kuppam model, which Chandrababu Naidu came up with. An Israeli-American company was into contract farming. They grew gherkins. The farmers were forced to gherkins, which is not consumed by even any farmer there. Forget a farmer, even in India, the consumption is very less, except maybe the super rich who use it in their salads. Initially, they were getting better prices than the other crops. Gradually, it started saying that grading and such issues, that the size is not correct, it is shape is not correct. On those counts, farmers were denied the prices which was initially promised. Later, when international market somewhere else there's an overproduction, then that also leads to a price crash. When there's a price crash internationally, that burden is transferred to the farmer. But when there is a price rise, there is no benefit given to the farmer. That is what happens.
Right. And this, I believe, is also in the context of the second bill we were talking about, which you described as the contract farming one. Could you just explain a bit also how it changes? What is the current situation? What is the change from the current situation that exists?
See, Prashant, actually the three bills are all interlinked. Mm-hmm. One is the market being deregulated and gradually withdrawing. On paper, even today the Prime Minister says MSP and procurement will happen.
Right.
But why would a trader go to the APMC and pay the tax and all that and buy this at the MSP? That is a question which he has to answer. What we are saying is then make it a legal right of the farmer that whoever buys from the farmer directly will pay the MSP as per C2 plus 50. It should be a legal right. They are not doing that.
Exactly.
Only the name in one of the bill is named price guarantee. No, not a single point about how this price is guaranteed is mentioned. In and you have the Essential Commodities Act, which is being changed, which I said is the hoarding and so all three are interlinked. And third one is the contract farming. Repeatedly, model contract farming they have been trying to impose through the state governments. There has been resistance. Now this is the manner in which they are trying to bring. And the added point is that the rights of the state, agriculture has been a state subject under the federal system and totally riding roughshod over the rights of the states. That is what is happening. Contract farming, in all cases we have seen it is an unequal system in which the small farmers of our country are having no protection at all.
Absolutely. Right. And Vijoo, could you talk a bit also about the protests that are being planned, that are going on right now? As you said, there is a tendency in many media organizations to only talk about the recent protests in Punjab and Haryana and make it sound like it is just one section of the farmers in one part of the country who are worried. Whereas, like you pointed out, this has been an ongoing agitation. In fact, on NewsClick itself, we have talked about some of these agitations in the past. So could you also give us a trajectory of what protests have taken place and what is likely to happen in the coming days and weeks?
Actually, when the ordinances were brought, immediately we came out with protests against that. First, in terms of press statements and memorandums and so on. And then on 10th, across the country, these ordinances and the amendments proposed to the Electricity Act were burnt. Our experience was in more than 3,500 centers across the country, these ordinances were burnt. We later have had, that is even before this concerted protests which are going on now, which media is showing as though it is only in Punjab and Haryana. Even before that, on August 9th, we had a jail borough across the country supported by the trade unions and the AIKCC also coming in support of that. On 5th September, we had a joint worker present Vijoo Krishnan day was observed where these issues have been raised. Farmers across the country have written emails, sent letters and sent emails to the Prime Minister. The PMO should mention how many letters have come. What is the kind of response from the field? That is not at all coming. And even as I'm talking today, there's a massive protest going on in Bangalore, where farmers' organizations, agriculture workers' organizations, as well as Dalit organizations have come together. It's a massive protest which is going on. These protests are continuing. 25th September, All India Kisan Sabha Coordination Committee has called for a Resistance Day, Pratirod Divas, which will be observed in different ways. Punjab, Haryana, and possibly Tamil Nadu are thinking of a band on that day. Others would have different ways of protest. 28th, we are going to again expose the pro-corporate approach, the undemocratic manner in which they are pushing through. This government, which if it is confident this is for the benefit of the farmers, they could as well have discussed this ordinance had time till December. They could have had wider consultations, strengthened, ensured that all whatever doubts or confusions are there, that is cleared, and brought a bill unanimously. Two bills had been placed by farmers themselves in the parliament. One is to ensure guaranteed remunerative price and another for freedom from indebtedness. It would have been good if the government had first looked into those before going into this, if their interest was really to benefit the farmers. Actually, it is at the bidding of the corporate cronies that they are bringing these bills.
Right. Thank you so much, Vijoo, for talking to us, and we'll be continuously talking to you as well. That's all we have time for today. Keep watching NewsClick.